The power of listening as a spiritual act. Have you ever stopped to reflect on the power of simply listening to someone? In a world where communication is constant, we often forget that listening is a deeply transformative spiritual practice. It's not just about capturing words, but opening ourselves to another's soul, creating a genuine connection that goes beyond spoken words. This, my friends, can be an act of love and spirituality. At the core of this practice is spiritual awakening, the spiritual consciousness that allows us to perceive the divine presence in life's simplest situations. When we choose to listen actively, we allow divine guidance to manifest in us, leading us to a place of greater spiritual empathy. Active listening goes beyond mere social behavior. It's an open door to our heart and to the heart of the person in front of us. Active listening is, in fact, one of the most powerful spiritual skills we can cultivate in our daily lives. Most of us, when we listen, do so superficially. We are often concerned with what we're going to respond or what we're thinking while the other person speaks. However, true listening is one that requires full attention. This not only honors the person speaking, but also brings us closer to something greater, something that transcends common human interaction. In many spiritual traditions, the ability to listen attentively is seen as a form of energetic healing, as it allows the energy flowing between people to be treated with respect and depth. Today, we will explore how this simple but profound practice can transform our spiritual journey and bring us closer to the divine presence in our lives. What you will hear throughout this video is more than a reflection on social behavior, but an invitation to perceive spirituality in every conversation, in every interaction. Because, deep down, we are all called to be the chosen ones to bring light and healing to others' lives. And the first step for this is listening, what will be covered in this video. Active listening and its connection to spirituality. We will explore how the act of attentive listening can be a spiritual practice that connects us with divine wisdom, the depth of love manifested in listening, understanding how active listening becomes an act of unconditional love, aligned with spiritual empathy. Developing spiritual skills through listening, we will reflect on how to enhance our spiritual abilities to listen in a deeper and transformative way. The impact of listening on personal spiritual transformation. How this practice can lead us to a path of energetic healing and spiritual transformation. Listening as a channel for divine guidance. We will discuss how by listening to others, we can also hear God's voice, receiving divine guidance for our own lives. Active listening and its connection to spirituality. When we think about spirituality, many of us imagine moments of prayer or meditation, or even those instances when we feel a direct connection with God. However, active listening, an apparently simple practice, also has the power to bring us closer to true spiritual essence. And here's the fundamental point. Listening attentively is not just a social skill, but a way to awaken our spiritual consciousness. Active listening requires us to step away from our ego and become receptive to others, without judgments, without interruptions, and, more importantly, without the need to have a ready answer. This is a direct reflection of spiritual empathy, which invites us to put ourselves in another's place and listen to their words with our heart. True listening is an act of love and compassion, and as such, it is a reflection of divine guidance in our lives. God calls us to be instruments of His love, and listening is one of the most powerful ways to practice this divine flame. When we dedicate ourselves to listening attentively, we are able to perceive much more than just words. We become aware of the emotions, feelings, and energy that accompany the other's speech. Active listening is a spiritual practice that goes beyond the spoken word and connects us with the deeper layers of human experience. Each spoken word is an opportunity to receive a blessing, a lesson, and a divine revelation if we are willing to listen with an open heart. Active listening is not an innate ability. It needs to be cultivated. It requires patience, full attention, and above all, a true willingness to serve. When we listen to someone, it's not just about providing an answer or finding a solution to their problems. It's about being a silent presence that carries with it the energy of understanding, welcoming, and love. This may seem simple, but it is one of the most profound acts of energetic healing we can offer others. Now, I invite you to reflect. When was the last time you really listened to someone? Not just heard their words, but connected with what they really mean? In your daily life, How can you improve your ability to listen with an open heart and mind? As we practice active listening, we are actually enhancing our spiritual abilities and becoming more sensitive to divine guidance. The simple act of listening can be a key to spiritual transformation, both for us and for those around us. Would you like to share an experience about how active listening has touched your life? How have you been living this practice? Leave your comments below, as we want to know how listening is transforming your spiritual journey. The depth of love manifested in listening on many occasions. What people need most is not advice, but to be heard. In a world where everyone is constantly seeking to be understood, the act of listening with genuine intention is a powerful manifestation of love. Active listening, therefore, becomes not just a social skill, but a profound vehicle for unconditional love. When we listen to someone with spiritual empathy, we not only make the person feel valued, but we also create a space where spiritual transformation can happen. On the spiritual plane, love is the foundation of everything, and listening is a reflection of that love. When we dedicate ourselves to listening to others without rushing, without judgments, and without trying to correct or change what is being said, we are practicing one of the greatest acts of love. We are offering ourselves to others as a tool for spiritual connection, a channel for divine wisdom that can manifest in various ways. This is what it means to be chosen to spread light and love to the world. When we listen attentively, we allow love to flow through us, making us instruments of healing and peace. Listening is a form of surrender. When we listen, we put ourselves in a position of service. Serving others by listening to them sincerely is a reflection of the surrender that Christ teaches us, where he calls us to love our neighbor as ourselves. This type of love demands nothing in return. It offers itself freely and, in its giving, creates a connection that transcends words and reaches the soul. Active listening, in this sense, is a direct reflection of the spiritual empathy that is part of our spiritual journey. When we truly listen, we offer others the opportunity to express themselves without barriers, without limitations. Often, what a person most desires is simply to have a safe space to open up. This is one of the greatest gifts we can offer someone, the gift of attentive listening, of a safe space where vulnerability is welcome. And, in doing so, we are also allowing ourselves to grow spiritually, as active listening teaches us humility and reminds us of the importance of being fully present in the moment. I invite you to think, how have you been practicing active listening in your life? Have you been giving others the same space that God gives us? Share your stories with us in the comments below. What has active listening taught you about divine love and about yourself? How has it impacted your relationships? By sharing your experiences, you help strengthen our spiritual community, as we are all learning together in this journey of connection and transformation. Active listening can be the path to deeper love and a clearer understanding of divine guidance in our lives. Developing spiritual skills through listening, active listening, is not a skill that develops overnight. It requires patience, practice, and the willingness to open oneself to another's experience with a receptive heart. Like any other spiritual skill, the ability to listen deeply and transformatively requires training and a constant openness to divine guidance. As we improve our ability to listen, we are actually cultivating a fundamental part of our spiritual journey, as it allows us to better understand ourselves, others, and, most importantly, God's presence in our lives. One of the most powerful ways to develop this skill is by practicing mindfulness. In our busy daily lives, it's easy to get distracted, but active listening requires us to be fully present. This means not just hearing the words, but also being attentive to the energy, emotion, and intention behind each speech. This type of listening is an invitation to awaken spiritual consciousness, as it challenges us to go beyond the surface and perceive the deeper truths that hide in human interactions. As we dedicate ourselves to this practice, our spiritual abilities expand, allowing us to be more compassionate, more empathetic, and more attentive to God's voice. When we listen to someone with an open heart and mind, we become more sensitive to the divine guidance that manifests in every moment. The Lord speaks to us in many ways, and active listening can be a channel through which He guides us, teaches us, and transforms us. Indeed, as we listen to others, we are also learning to hear God more clearly. However, The true challenge of active listening is not just in listening without interruptions, but in listening without prejudices. Often, our minds are full of preconceived ideas, judgments, and expectations, which prevent us from hearing others fully. True listening requires us to set aside these internal barriers and be willing to listen with our hearts, without rushing to form an opinion or give advice. This then allows us to open a space for energetic healing and spiritual transformation for others and ourselves. Now, I want to invite you to reflect. What are the internal barriers you encounter when trying to truly listen? Have you ever tried to listen to someone without judgment or rush to respond? What would it be like if you practiced active listening more deeply and intentionally? I ask this because, by developing it, you will not only be improving your relationships, but also becoming more sensitive to the divine presence in all moments. In the next few minutes, as you continue this journey, remember that, like all spiritual skills, active listening can be improved over time. By dedicating yourself to this practice, you are, in fact, advancing in your spiritual journey in a way that will bring profound fruits both in your life and in the lives of people around you. The impact of listening on personal spiritual transformation. Active listening has a profound impact not only on the lives of those we communicate with, but also on our own spiritual transformation. When we listen attentively, we allow ourselves to be touched by what others share, which often leads us to a process of self-knowledge and healing. True listening is a practice that helps us transcend the limitations of ego, as it forces us to look beyond our own thoughts and concerns, placing us in the presence of others with humility and compassion. When we practice active listening, spiritual transformation begins to happen within us. First, it helps us develop greater spiritual empathy, allowing us to feel what others feel and respond with love and understanding. This makes us more sensitive to others' needs and teaches us to be more compassionate in our daily interactions. Each act of listening is, therefore, an opportunity for spiritual growth, a step toward our awakening of consciousness and the development of spiritual abilities that connect us to the divine. Furthermore, by opening ourselves to listen to others, we are also allowing healing energy to flow through us. Active listening, as a form of service to others, makes us instruments of energetic healing, because when we welcome others in our presence, we give space for them to release their emotions, their pains, and their joys. True listening creates a field of positive energy, where both listener and speaker are spiritually elevated. This process of energy exchange is a direct reflection of divine guidance, which manifests whenever we dedicate ourselves to others with a pure heart. Listening also teaches us to recognize God's voice in our daily lives. When we listen to others, we learn to hear the messages He sends us in subtle and often unexpected ways. In each conversation, in each moment of full attention, God guides us, teaches us, and calls us to live according to His will. Therefore, by practicing active listening, we are actually becoming more attentive to God's presence in our lives, allowing Him to guide us with spiritual wisdom and help us live a life more aligned with His purpose. I would like to invite you to reflect on the transformation that has already happened in your life through practicing active listening. Have you noticed changes in your relationships or spiritual journey by dedicating more attention and empathy to others? Share your experiences in the comments below, as your stories can inspire others in their journey of spiritual growth. Active listening, beyond being a form of love and empathy, is a path to our own spiritual transformation. By practicing it, we become more aware of who we are, what God desires for us, and how we can be instruments of His peace and healing in the world. Applying active listening in your spiritual life. As we journey through this discovery about the power of active listening, it's essential to understand how this practice can integrate and transform our spiritual life in a practical way. Active listening, when applied in our daily lives, not only strengthens our relationships with others, but also brings us closer to God and allows us to live with greater intention and purpose. Each time we listen to someone with an open mind and heart, we are participating in a spiritual act of connection that transcends the moment and touches the eternal. Active listening requires us to place ourselves in a position of humility, which is a fundamental component of our spiritual journey. In many life situations, we may feel the impulse to want to teach, correct, or impose our own opinions. However, The true act of listening, as a spiritual practice, invites us to learn, accept, and allow others to be who they are. This type of listening makes us more aware of the divine wisdom that reveals itself in the words, gestures, and emotions of those around us. Each interaction becomes an opportunity to experience God's presence. Furthermore, active listening strengthens our ability to discern God's voice in our lives. Often, we seek divine guidance in moments of prayer or reflection, but active listening teaches us to perceive God's voice at all times, in the words and actions of others. When we listen attentively with spiritual empathy, our spiritual consciousness sharpens, and we can perceive the divine guidance that guides us, whether in a simple conversation or in a moment of deep emotional sharing. This practice makes us more sensitive to the flow of energetic healing that God offers us through others. As we incorporate active listening into our lives, we also create space for healing. Listening with an open heart can be a powerful healing tool, both for the speaker and the listener. When we listen to someone with the intention of truly understanding their experience and helping them find peace, we are practicing spiritual healing. Often words are not what matters most, but the presence of someone willing to listen with compassion. This welcoming space can be transformative, both for others and ourselves, as it connects us to an energy of divine love and compassion. Now, reflecting on what you've learned in this video, I ask, how can the practice of active listening be applied in your life? In what way can you use this skill to strengthen your spiritual journey, your relationships, and your connection with God? By taking this practice into your daily life, you will be creating not only internal change, but also contributing to the spiritual transformation of those around you. And in doing so, you will be following divine guidance to be a channel of peace, love, and healing in the world. Would you like to share how active listening has impacted your spiritual life? Leave your comments below and join us on this journey of growth and connection. Remember, each act of listening is one more step in our journey of spiritual transformation. When listening, we don't just hear with our ears, but with our heart. May we become instruments of divine love, both hearing and listening, in ways that transform our lives and the lives of others around us. If you felt touched by this content and wish to continue your journey of spiritual transformation, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. Each time you share a video like this, you help spread God's light and love, creating more opportunities for others to also experience healing and spiritual awakening. Additionally, if you have stories or insights about the practice of active listening, share them in the comments below. We are here to grow together as a community of faith and support. Don't miss the next videos, which will continue to explore powerful themes to strengthen your spirituality. Together, we can be agents of transformation and love in a world that so desperately needs it.